Nice pint glass, Friday evening ready to punch out, so you know my routine by now. I'm going to be ready to brew myself. But I thought I'd change up a little bit today for this edition of the Cheese Cafe. You know pretty well that I do love my beer. I'm always highlighted every time I'm doing some cooking or everything else. But I'm sure that some of it could be a bit foreign to you. Like, if you're a basic person that enjoys your beer, you're probably looking at the regular section. Your Molson, your Labatt, your, I don't know, Corona, and you just pick up that. But then if you go to some grocery stores that have all the section of microbrews, you'd be thinking like, New England IPA, Porter, Stout, White IPA, and all those names over there are probably thinking, what the hell is all this? I admit, it could be intimidating. Years ago, you would not have seen this stuff, but these days, the microbrewery section has become, I guess, a little bit saturated. And there's like hundreds of products on the shelves right now too, so it might be hard to figure out what everything is. So I thought today I could give like a basic beer 101 for all the types of beers that you're going to find. And just as a quick note, while I'm going to try to cover as much as I can, this is not going to be a comprehensive list. If there's any other beers you think I missed that I should probably describe, let me know in the comment section below, and then I'll see, maybe I could do a part 2 for this down the road. So on that note, let's go get our beers. Okay, so I'm going to be going down the hole. I have a tray to carry everything that I want to show off. Alright, so much goodies to show off. Yeah, I got like a dozen in here. And just as a disclaimer, no, you're not going to see me drinking all 12 of these. I don't think I'll be able to survive tomorrow if I did that. And with that out of the way, actually I should have one more disclaimer. If you're watching this thinking that I'm just going to say go down a 12-pack of Corona because it's the best beer ever, you're barking up the wrong tree. This isn't about just Corona or piss water. Oh man, I have a fancy taste in beer, so sometimes I like to go beyond that. But sometimes I do feel like I'm an old man or a redneck. So now that all those disclaimers are out of the way, your basics of beer are just going to be a combination of barley, hops, yeast, and water. And what that does is it ferments it all to make a liquid out of it. And the alcohol content you're going to have in there is actually a byproduct from the fermentation of it. So it's not like it's a case of some guy tastes it and decides, this doesn't taste good enough, and he just dumps a bottle of rubbing alcohol in it. If you're dumping rubbing alcohol in your beer, you're a fucking idiot. You don't need to do that stuff. But with those types of ingredients, you're going to get a lot of your basic type of beers. So most people, when they think of beer, they're going to think of what's probably a blonde. And there's other names for that. You're going to probably see it marked as a lager, maybe it's going to be a pilsner. I'm sure there's other technical reasons for calling them that, but for the purposes of this video, to keep it simple, let's just call these blondes. So this is going to be like your typical Molson X, your Labatt 50, your, I guess your Heineken, those kind of ones. And they're going to come from all around the world too. I guess some are based on similar styles. Like Case in Point is another one that I enjoy doing. This one is Staropramen, and it's a Prava. It's supposed to be a Prague-style Pilsner. Another one of the more famous Pilsners to come out of Prague, or from the Czech Republic, is Bud. That's right, people. Bud comes from the Czech. But the only difference is that it's called Budweiser over here, and actually what I've been told once is that the real Bud is a bit more tasty than Budweiser. So I guess it's safe to say that Budweiser is the watered-down bastard child of Bud. There, I said it. Good if you want to down a couple of them, and I love this one though because it does have a good flavor at the percentage it is. It's like 4.2%. My personal preference, I like it in the 5% range. That way you can have a good couple of them without overdoing it from time to time. And then sometimes you'll find with the American style of beers, they do come in what I guess is called economical styles or economical sizes. Like this one over here, which is Carling Black Label. A lot of these styles, you're gonna see like in the 710 to 750 milliliter can like that. When it gets to this point, I end up calling them jumbo fuckers, just because it's like the size of a full bottle of wine, full bottle of whiskey. It's a lot to drink at once. But hey, sometimes if you want to drink on a budget, this is the way to go. But another one I enjoy doing is this one from Boreal. Boreal microbrewers are like one of my favorite discoveries. I have yet to be disappointed with any of theirs as well. It's usually pretty tasty stuff, but I'll get to one of my favorite ones in a second. So while you're going to have a lot of blondes, you might have something that's going to be maybe considered an amber, maybe a pale ale, or sometimes even a russe, as they would say. The main thing that makes those different from the other ones is that when you're using the barley, you're actually using caramelized barleys, which will give it like a bit of a reddish color for it. It's a bit like when you're cooking with onions, that when you cook the onions and really brown it up, it becomes caramelized. The only thing about those is that depending on how caramelized it is, it will be a little bit sweet and sugary. So those I tend not to go for as much, just because I don't like to have it too sweet. In my old age, I don't like having too much sugary stuff. Something a bit drier, that's my style. So in terms of those, I found here one from Bose, located in Ontario no less. Country Vibes. This one they call like an amber lagered ale. It almost feels like it's one of those hybrid ales I hear so much about. It's like a mix between a redhead and a blonde. Somehow you get to crossbreed them and then you get these mutant kind of beers. But I'll get to even more mutant beers that you find along the way. Those could be okay. And then sometimes you're going to find that there's some that are going to be a bit bitter. I remember there was one time I was at Brutopia that I had one of their bitter ambers. Oddly enough, it was called Bonjour High. You know, that famous expression that, well, let's not talk about it now because I'll be getting too much into politics. But anyways, it's Bonjour High. That one actually had hemp in it for whatever reason. And then, of course, the spelling of high was completely different. So it's not high as in, you know, high as in hello. It was more along the lines of, you know, Afroman style high. You know, Afroman because I got high, that kind of song. Yeah, thinking back to the old 90s. Crazy times. And there is a bitter that I'm going to be trying for myself later on. It's from Farnham Brewer, and I'll admit, I had to get it just because of the style and the artwork on it. Never mind the bitter is what it's called. There, if you're a punk fan, then you know this is supposed to be based off the Sex Pistols' first album. Actually, probably their only album. It's like a nice tribute to the first wave of punk. What a movement that was. Almost makes me think I wish I was born around that time period to be able to see all those music periods now. Because I'm kind of discovering a lot of this stuff 30, 40, sometimes even 50 years after the fact. It's crazy. So then how much more white can a beer get? It's a rhetorical question, and a way to go to the next beer that I want to highlight. You're going to probably see something that's like white beer or Weissbier, as they say it in German. I hate speaking that because I know that I always butcher a language whenever I try it. But you're going to see these like Weissbier or hefeweizen or Berliner Weiss. Those essentially are whites, and the big difference is that they actually use wheat in here as opposed to barleys. And a lot of times you're also going to notice that they have a flavor of orange and coriander too, to give it that distinct flavor. So one of my first whites I ever tried was Hoegaarden of all things. Oh, I'm sorry, Hoegaarden. Man, I try to speak those languages, I end up thinking I have to clear my throat. Okay, I'm going to move aside from that, just call it Hoegaarden. It's easy and fun to call it Hoegaarden. But this one I'm highlighting here is a Shelton beer from Oschlag called Berliner Weiss. This was more like a sour beer. It's only 3.5% too, so not bad at all. It's like you want to pound this one back without feeling the effects of it afterwards. But hey, it's a living sometimes. And on for my next one. Imagine you're walking into a house. You look at someone that's living there. They look like they're possessed by a demon, so you decide you need to call a priest, get an exorcism performed, and hopefully you have that bag of holy water on the shelf that you've been saving for just such an occasion. What are you going to do? Well, you'll get the spirits out from them, they're going to escape, and then you can process them to become a beer. Or I guess that's why the Ghostbusters exist too. They run around catching ghosts and then you just squeeze them to become a beer. But no. It's not a ghost, it's more like G-O-S-E that I'm highlighting. Ghostes. That's a style that is around a lot more these days, like highlighted more so than I've ever seen before. And those tend to be a little bit fruity at times, and sometimes considered very sour. This one I've had a while back is like a peppered lime ghost called Miss Ghost. It's definitely a title that is appropriate for La Pécheresse. I kind of want to highlight this because I think the artwork on this one was designed by a late colleague of mine back when I was working at HMB. So it makes me always think back to him whenever I have one of these. Man, this is making me feel down. I've got to change the subject. You might have some nuts in your beer as well. That's actually pretty typical of brown ale as well. Those tend to be a little bit off my radar whenever I'm looking for a new beer to try. But sometimes I like to try it every now and then. And one of my favorite ones that I've already highlighted before had the perverted espionage squirrel. But this one is actually from Avant-Garde called Mr. Brown. And it's the perfect one, as you can see, if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino. But when I drink this, I always think of that song Stuck in the Middle with You and imagine some guy losing an ear as a result. And it's so violent. Sometimes you listen to these old songs, they kind of feel like it ruins it for you afterwards because they associate it with something else. But nevertheless, the browns will have a nutty flavor, but they also tend to be very smooth to drink as well. So I'm okay with that as well. But then there might be some that involve nuts, they might involve dates, they might involve chocolate and espresso. So what are you gonna say? Fuck that. Well, that's actually a joke leading into my next style beer, a stout. Stouts tend to have darker barleys that are used to ferment. Sometimes you're going to have oatmeal in it too, which might give it a very heavy texture. But then on occasion, you will see that they have maybe a hint of chocolate or coffee in them as well. Like that's your basic one. The easiest one to drink is definitely Guinness. That's smooth, it doesn't have too heavy of a flavor, and it's like, if you want to get into beers or if you want to get into stouts without having to go for the heavy coffee flavor, that's the way to go. And of course, if you're in an Irish pub and it's St. Patrick's Day, you can't not have Guinness, except for if you're having a green-colored beer. Man, I almost forgot that was a thing. And leading into that was this beer I had to pick up for myself for the name. If you're thinking about date-flavored beers, this will make you think, fuck that. Seriously, it's called Fuck That. Yeah, I had to highlight this for the name. But the catch to this is getting to a high percentage. So if you remembered me doing my jumbo fucker over here, this one, whenever it gets to like 6.5% and higher, I'll call it a strong fucker. This was an 8.5%er, so definitely not one you want to use and abuse. At least I don't think so. And then next we're going to get to the other kind of beer that I'm also fond of, the IPA, or India Pale Ale. You'll remember that the main ingredient, or one of the main ingredients in beer, is hops. That's the kind of plant that gives it a slightly bitter taste in there. So then for these IPAs, they are going to have a lot more hops involved in it, and then that gives it a distinct flavor. And then they're going to branch off to other kinds of IPAs as well. So one of them is going to be the Session IPA. Those you're going to mostly find like maybe around the 3.5 to 4.5% range. Something like getting the hops flavor, but not having it too heavy as well. I think it was a friend of mine I looked up and discovered that was actually made in England. It was like a kind of beer that if you're working and you're out for your lunch, it's one that you would probably drink while you're having your lunch. Because if you wanted to have one, you would have probably a lighter beer so you don't go piss drunk on it. I have one that I've been holding on to for a while from Pixel. I've shown a photo in the past. I'm just waiting for the best occasion to use this. It's a Session IPA called Springfield Session. Yeah, you could clearly tell what these guys are going for. And it says it goes well with TV, donuts, skateboard, and the saxophone. So yeah, I'm still holding on to this thing because I want to save this for a Simpsons themed vlog one of these days. I know I got a request to do that one day, and I might do that to highlight some of my favorite moments. Now I just got to figure out how I'm gonna like integrate those clips. We'll see. Okay, I'm almost getting to the end here. So one of the other IPAs that I love to highlight a lot too is one of my personal favorites, the New England IPA or the Northeast IPA. Those usually have a very cloudy texture. Like most of these other beers you're gonna see are like very transparent, maybe translucent at best. These you won't be able to see through whatsoever. That's because it's been unfiltered and all the sediments from the fermentation are kept in there. But they also have like a very fruity, citrusy flavor in there. Most of the time you're gonna find it uses, let's say, passion fruit, maybe peach, maybe pineapple. So it's actually not too bad. Some of them can be like in the 6% range, so you gotta ease up on that. In fact, I think this is gonna be my first beer of the evening. This is a Champion de Canton. Let's see if this is like gonna reach my gold standard. Because my gold standard for beers, at least for New England IPAs, are the Boréal IPA du Nord-Est and Saint-Ambroise New England IPA. And I've highlighted those numerous times in the past, but I wish I could highlight it again because I haven't seen them in stores in ages. It's like ever since like December last year, they haven't been made available. It's a damn shame because those are pretty amazing for me. All right, let's see. Okay, this one is it's unfiltered as well, but these tend to have a bit of a yellowish color to it too. This one is kind of maybe a caramel color. I guess I'll find out what this is like. Okay, it's not bad at all. So yeah, decent enough. You can tell why this is one of my favorites. You get the hops, but you get the fruitiness with it too. But it's not one you're going to want to pound back too much. Too much hops, you're going to end up having a headache with that. And speaking of hops, that'll bring me into the West Coast IPA. You might have seen those before too. Those tend to be a little less fruity and more hoppy. Like, it's going to be slightly bitter. They're good. I just never think to buy them as much unless I get a recommendation for it. And then you're going to have other variations of IPAs like double IPAs, triple IPAs. But those are going to be like in the 8 or 9% range. That's the definition of a fucker. Brace yourself. Drink with extreme caution. And there's another one here that I'm thinking about. This one is from Farnham also, and it's called IPA DDH. So what's a DD? Oh no, it's actually called Da Bomb. It's got a picture of a cartoon bomb on it. Yeah, this lights up. I don't know, I look at this thing and I think, just draw two white circles on it, you basically have the bomb from Super Mario Brothers. And what is a DDH IPA? I guess the style hoppy DD IPA. Or unless DDH is a wrestling move, which is like a lighter DDT. Because a DDT, you get that, you're down for the count. Or at least that's what it used to be. But then of course, you're going to have a lot of these weird hybrid beers that are out in the market too. Like, you're going to have white IPAs, which is a combination of the hoppiness of the IPA with the orange, wheat, coriander taste of the white. So you get those kind of hybrids. There's also going to be, oddly enough, like blonde stouts, white stouts. That's really nothing more than white or blonde beers, but with the taste of a stout in there. So drinking of the blonde, but it still tastes like coffee or chocolate. It's bloody weird whenever I do that. And then you're going to have some of these other monstrosities too. This one from St. Buck is a grapefruit IPA. But then you would think, why on earth would I want to do a pink IPA? Well, I'll admit, I bought this one just for the name. This thing is called Pink Jesus. They've had a couple of these Jesus beers in the past. They've had Pink Jesus here, they got Sour Jesus, they had Black Jesus. Yeah, you drink this, someone's going to want to shove you in a confession booth because you've committed a sin. It's sacrilege, I suppose. Well, sacrilegious, I guess. That's a mix of sacrilege and delicious. Thank you, Simpsons. Great vocabulary there. So, this is my little mini beer tutorial video that I thought I'd share with everyone. Hope you found it informative, and hopefully the next time you're in the grocery store, you can navigate that microbrewery without losing your mind. Or you just rely on Corona because, you know, best beer ever, according to some people. But whatever the case, hope you enjoy this, and hope you have a really good Friday night. This is going to be another edition of the Wandering Ukie Cheese Cafe, signing off. So, thanks for watching, everyone. If you like what you see, then, hit that subscribe button below. Hit me a like. Let me know that you actually like this shit. I don't do this for free. At least, wait, I am doing this for free. Just say that you like it. Say that you'll subscribe and leave a comment if you want. In fact, leave a comment if you have another request for types of beers I should cover. I might have enough to do a part 2 for this. So cheers, happy Friday, and I'm going to see what other glorious beer I'm going to cover. Yeah, a buddy of mine is thinking I'm going to be drinking all this tonight. Yeah, if I do that, I'm going to be passed out. That'll be like doing a 6-pack of Fangs and Mold. I'll highlight that one day, but I'm not doing a 6-pack.